This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world talking with fellow human design enthusiasts, specifically reflectors, as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today, I'm very excited. We are joined by the amazing Melany. Now, Melany is also a 3/6 reflector with the right angle cross of the Sphinx. Now, on last episode, we also had another 3/6 cross of the Sphinx, and wouldn't you know it, these two are born 1 minute apart. So anyway, we're going to get into that later. But for now, this is about Melany and Melany's story and her journey. And Melany is a firstborn Peruvian American, which, as you know, I've come back from Peru. So this is deeply like, oh my gosh, more alignment here. And she's really deeply committed to empowering others to thrive and be unapologetically themselves, right? And we're going to talk about this a lot more with you. So welcome, Melany. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for creating this beautiful space.
I didn't want to say too much more because I'm like, no, this is all just going to come out. Don't need to give a lot.
Yes.
As we do, before we get into the really juicy, I mean, it is still juicy finding how we discovered human design, but let's take us into that space, if you may. How did you find human design, or human design find you?
Yes. So in 2020, there was a friend of mine that was doing these things called soul portraits. And she would paint these beautiful portraits, kind of schedule some time with you to imagine what that inner goddess would look like. And through that conversation, afterwards, she mentioned like, hey, there's based on your human design. And so I was like, human design, like, what is that? And it was so like serendipitous, I guess, because when the process that, the image that she took me through of like, what do you see? Like when you see your inner goddess, how do you see her? And like, what's her name? And when I said what her name was, I was like, her name is Luna. And then after that, she would tell me about human design and that I was a reflector and that we were like tied to the moon. And I was like, what? I like named her Luna, and she's like up here. I'll have to send you a picture of it. But so that's when I first heard of human design. I didn't really think anything of it. It was kind of like, okay, cool, that's a cool tool. There's this squares and triangles and numbers, and it looks really confusing. So I kind of just dropped it. But in 2023 or 2022, I can't remember now, but somebody, again, it kind of just came about like somebody at work was like, hey, do you know your human design? And I was like, oh my gosh, in 2020, I heard about human design. Let me look into it again. And as I looked into it and kept on finding more resources and social media and these videos, that's when human design came back to me, where it was like, this time you need to really get into it to help you. And um, I had just finished my Saturn return and had to take a medical leave from work. And it was like the whole tower of cards falling in my life and just resetting. And human design was such a beautiful tool to help me understand and unpack like how I am. And it was it was such a useful tool for self-discovery, but also self-affirmation to know that my uniqueness had a reason and like a purpose. And so, yeah, ever since then have just been diving a little bit deeper.
I love that. I don't know. It feels like forever ago, but when people share this, their first encounter or even their second encounter with me, I always just go, oh my gosh. And it transports me back, because mine was like, I joke, but it wasn't a joke. I went on a 3-day bender, Melany. It wasn't alcohol and drugs. It was a 3-day bender of laughing, crying, raging. Like you couldn't pull me out of my emotional depth and well of what was being, like, it was like for the first time I saw a part of myself, and so I had to express all of the feelings, and it was like this just crazy woman coming out. And I often wondered, if I should have been committed during those 3 days. But anyway, it was what it was. It was just expression.
Yeah.
So it is a tool that really sees us, doesn't
Hmm.
it? Just
Yeah.
in you go. See you.
Yep. Yeah. And seeing like my childhood, like it just through the lens of that has just helped me through the lens of human design and being a reflector and always knowing like what's wrong with me? Why can't I like be like others around me? And it was just so refreshing to understand like, hey, you're like 1 to 2% of the population. Like, oh, okay, then that makes sense like why I could feel so differently.
Yeah. And would you mind sharing that backstory of yours? Because I often find that's a part of our journey is understanding that, especially reflectors, understanding that, we are the sum of most parts. When we take the journey back to our family dynamic, we can kind of see a little bit more of why we did some of the things that we did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So both my parents are immigrants from Peru, so I was born in California. So being first generation, that experience alone in the US is one where you're having to navigate all of these systems on your own for the first time, living in two worlds, right? So my parents raised me in the household as if we would live in Peru. But then on the outside world, I was going to school speaking English, and my friends were like mostly Caucasian American, right? And so like there was these two worlds that I was like constantly living in, and not really knowing like, okay, I don't fit. There's a saying in Spanish, it's like ni de aquí ni de allá, and that means neither from here or there. So like when I would go to Peru and see family, they'd be like, "Oh, you're too American, like you're not Peruvian, right?" And then when I'd be in the United States, they're like, "You're definitely not American, you're like Peruvian." So it was like, where is my home? Where do I feel good? And so having that and being a reflector, I felt those things deeply. Another reflector story, like as a background that it comes to my mind a lot is every school year, the last day of school, I felt the emotion and the depth of that being that last time with everyone. And my mom, which I found out recently is a projector, she was intuitive enough to know, like, and committed every single year of my school year. She took that last day of work off from the, like, because she knew that I needed that support of my emotions every school year. And it was like, it was so weird because not everybody would feel all those big feelings, but I just felt like I was like, it's never going to be like this year again. And like feeling that deeply in my heart and the sadness of a little bit of grieving. Um, yeah, I just really understood that at such a young age. And there was also something that when I was little, as my parents share stories, my parents came through political asylum. So in their court date, where, they were gonna find out if they were gonna be able to stay or have to leave. My auntie who was watching me said, "Hey, it's like she kind of knew what day it was today. She was in the corner by herself, just like quiet and not playing and just like feeling like." And so just, and my parents share that story, and I'm like, oh my God, the reflector piece, like the absorption, just like understanding what was going on without even using words at that point. But being sensitive enough to understand what was going on.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Thank you so much for that. It's huge. And I can imagine for your parents navigating that duality as well must have been
mm,
extremely difficult. And you, as a reflector, would have been feeling all of that amplified with your own experience, amplifying their experience. And that's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Shit, eh? I love it. I know, I mean, I don't love the experience at the time, but in hindsight, we can always look back and go, wow, this was still challenging, or it still is challenging in certain ways for us. Um,
totally. Yeah.
And we were just sharing off air, like I've just got so much deep respect for the Peruvian culture. I realize it's not for everybody, but it's this deep groundedness. So I guess if you were in a way raised in that household that was still trying to, live a part of that culture of your Peruvian ancestry, that was instilling in that groundedness of you. Or, well, I would love to dream and hope.
Yes, yes, yeah. And it was a lot of like, I think as as listeners who might be first generation too, there is, and I think I love this language and human design of that conditioning piece of how reflectors like kind of have to like can be conditioned, right? And then have to go through a process of deconditioning because that's our highest selves. Um, I think being in that identity, I was highly conditioned. It was like my parents didn't have to tell me their expectations. I just felt it. Like I felt that, the burden of their sacrifices, I had to show up in a different way. I had to do well in school. I had to get the degree. I had to get a good job. I had to show stability. Even though like inside I felt like I want to explore, like I want to be able to move around a little bit and kind of like be a little reckless, but I just never like because I was conditioned, it was like, okay, I represent my parents. I represent like everything that they've done. So that responsibility piece was yeah, it was things that I look back and I'm like that held me back from wanting to pursue some like for example, like my parents would definitely not want me to be like an artist because God forbid that doesn't, that's not stable. That's
Didn't
not
pay the
like
bills.
it doesn't pay the bills, exactly. But then as you see in my background right here, like I love being creative.
Yeah.
Like I decorated this space and this is my space. And I didn't take as many classes in college, I think of around that creativity that I really wish that I had, looking back now. But I do it now in the form of like decorating my spaces and like the way and what I wear and just how I show up. And so now, as a 33-year-old adult, I feel like I am letting little Melanie really choose to explore those things. And it's been such a fun journey to also do that because the surprise comes. Like those elements of surprise come. I'll go to an event and then like went to a painting, like where you paint pottery. And it was just like that element of like, yeah, the surprise, the feeling, and like the connecting with somebody. And then like finding something that I needed at that moment. And yeah, I think it's been just nice to be in the adult age to understand the little missing pieces, I think, and then take care of little Melanie and also, yeah, have the means to do it now on my accord.
How
So,
nice
yeah.
is it to meet ourselves where we're at?
Yeah.
All of the mess. Um, and with your chart, using human design here as the language, you have four completely open centers. So you have your throat open, you have your emotional solar plexus, your spleen, and your will. So I had to go off memory then. That's a lot. So when we're talking here, conditioning, in human design, isn't it thrown at us of going over especially the undefined as reflected, but the open center can be the most conditioned, but it also can be the most wise. So, just listening to you sharing, wanted to remind the audience that this is a cross of the Sphinx, which all of your gates, all of your incarnation gates are all in your G. So in a way, I love for you, or I love to say to people, you deeply know who you are, even when you don't know who you are. But those
Mm.
four open centers outside of that, I could imagine quite challenging, as well as having one of the rarer profiles, which is the three, the 3 6, the double three, the double three,
Hmm.
four
Yeah.
open centers, double three, and gate 54. I think 4 or 5 times. Got to remember. I mean,
Yeah.
Can we just take a moment, please, to congratulate you for living who you are, for expressing yourself through this creativity, which you found. I don't know. I just go, oh, deep effect, sister.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, that's real. And I'm glad that you can recognize that. Thank you.
Do you, in your journey that you're still obviously unraveling, and please don't feel that you have to have any answers to this, but those open centers, like how that's even hard to describe because again, we're talking no words kind of thing here, hey, but when I say that to you, you got four open centers. I know I've got two open centers and I know how much I'm pushed and pulled, but to have four, oof,
Yeah.
yeah.
It it's a jerk like it's just the conditioning I think uh has been yeah, I love that language and that I think that has been an unlock for me. And as I stepped into my Saturn return at 30, like I think these last 3 years have been the most empowering years of my life. And I think up to that point, it was just all conditioning. And I was doing everything for what other people thought or what other, like, in careers, right? Like, have a mentor, they say, have this. And it's like, okay, well, then this person thinks I should apply to this job. And this person thinks that, like, I'm good at this. So I'm just going to follow this. And so taking these things that I was hearing but then never like taking the time to reflect with myself and be like, does this make me feel good? Like, does this, or am I just running with it because I felt so good to feel seen when somebody told me I was good at this, but I'm actually, when I do the thing, I don't really like it, you know?
I just
And
spent three
so I think
centers right there.
yeah, exactly. So it's just been a lot of that. And then on top of that, being like first generation, and then knowing, so both, okay, so I said my mom was a projector, found out also my dad is a projector.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask.
So lots of projecting
Yeah.
on a reflector. And it's funny because without them knowing about human design, I can see how different they are. Like my mom waits for the invitation for sure. And my dad is the like pokey one, like, hey, I know the best, right? Like I'm trying to guide you, and I'm like, I didn't ask for that. And then it feels so invasive
Yeah.
sometimes. And
Do you know
so
their subtype of their projectorisms?
I don't. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten that deep in their profile yet. I was just like, okay, what's their aura type? Simple. Like I just need to know
Yeah. That
so that we can
fair,
begin
fair.
there. But yeah, it's been, and I think I'll bring in a little bit of astrology, right? It's like I'm a Capricorn rising, which is very heavily like shows up in career and leadership and like that kind of go-getter mentality. And so that coupled with expectations of being first generation, coupled with like my own desires of what I want to do in this world and what I want to get paid for and how I want to show up, um, has just been like, and that's why when you look at my like resume, my first job was at Cold Stone like Creamery, which is like an ice cream shop
Yeah.
here. And I sincerely like I can look back at my jobs and there was like pieces of my jobs that I really enjoyed, but it's funny because it's like even at 16 I think of like my human design profile and the customers that I would serve that gate 13 unraveled like, hey, my husband's this, da da da. Like just it would just all like come out and then I would have all of these like loyal customers coming for looking for me. And it was just and that was at 16. And even if I didn't have the title of supervisor or manager, shift manager, or whatever, I was always seen as like the leader or the person that was like, okay, hey, how can we tell Melanie about this? Or like, what do you think? Like a lot of like feedback. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about
Mm.
that? And, that. it's just so fun to like look through that. And then I worked at, then I went to college and then I worked at a nonprofit. Then I worked at an optometrist for a little bit. Then I worked in higher education. And now I'm in corporate technology space. Like, and I'm just like, what's next? Because
Yeah.
it looks like I could just being able to pivot is just such a I saw it like my parents actually saw it as such a fear of like, oh my gosh, this girl does not stick to something and like get really well at it. She just kind of does these things. And at the beginning, their fear was very a big thing that I felt where I was like, okay, maybe they're right, you know. I need to just stick it out here. And the job, I was in my third position in higher education role. I had gotten my master's in higher education leadership. I was thinking, okay, if I stay in this field, I want to be a dean, I want to be a VP. And and it's like again, a little bit of human design language, the sampling. So
Mm.
the sampling I would do is like without me knowing what human design was, I was like, I want to know what it's like their personal lives of these deans and VPs. Like, let me sample their energy. Again, didn't know that language, but
Yeah.
in my mind, I knew that's what I wanted to do to be like, what's their life like? Because if I want this role, I want to know what they are like as a person. I just see them, but how is their life? And I remember one of these meetings I think she was a dean or a VP. She had 3 or 4 kids, and she was like, yeah, I kind of just like integrate my kids into the job. And so they'll be like passing out agendas in my meetings, and I immediately, my whole body felt like such like I was like, no, like that is not, the type of life that I want.
No.
And then that same role at the time there was some shifts in leadership and that shot taught me again no human design language, but my environment shifted because I
Yeah.
had such an amazing support and I like just meshed well with my management at the time. And then when he left, it was just an environmental shift that I did not feel good in. And so slowly but surely, um, I just kept staying there, right? Like month after month, and IBS would happen. My body would react in ways. There was like these signs, my mental health, like I was crying every day after work. I was crying in my car
Mm.
as I went into work. And then again, that hey, my parents like want me to have a stable job. Like this is the stability. I'm in this role it was a government role at a community college. So that meant the ultimate stability. There is what is it called? Uh when you retire,
It's
but it's
okay.
like just pension, a pension.
Yeah.
There was a pension included. Like that jobs like that don't exist, right? Like it was
Yes.
the ultimate you need to stay there, right? And it just kept on creeping in my body and in my mind. And then my partner was like, yeah, you need to like you're really sad. This is making you sad and not making you you. And I felt like I was losing myself. And
Mm.
I was talking to my therapist at the time, and she was like, you need to take a medical leave before you lose your power. And
Yeah.
and I said, "Okay." So I took that medical leave, Annie, and literally so I went from symptoms and emotions and
Mhm.
thinking I was depressed and all this stuff. That first week, my body just leaving the environment, not being in the environment, my body went back. Like I was bowel movements were regular. My mental health, like I started to
Wow.
like hear
Yeah.
myself. I started like all of it started like really coming back. And I knew in that first week, like I can't go back. Like if this is how I feel outside of it, I can't go back. And so I
So
think
good,
being
isn't it?
able to have that
Mm.
language to look back now and be like, oh my gosh, that's what was happening. And environments are so important for me in my decision making and how I show up. And not only that, but how I can show up as my highest self, like, and get that invitation to do XYZ, and be recognized. Because if I'm not, then I'm kind of just in a simplest way. wasting time in an environment that doesn't make me feel good, where I could be searching for one that does and have experiences that feel way more aligned.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is such a powerful example of how what's that book? I think it's called The Body Keeps Score, but there's so much more to it than that because in my experience, again, this is not just something that happens quickly for open-centered beings, reflectors. In my personal experience, it's something that is a massive build-up over time, and it takes a lot. I don't like to use the word resilience very often, but when it comes to reflectors, there's a shit ton of fucking resilience that we have where we can put up with a lot of shit for a long period of time until finally it's like, nope, and it'll
Yep.
slap us. For you and for a lot of people I speak with, it's literally the body, it just goes, nope, and it shuts down in certain ways. For
Mhm.
me and some of us, we self-sabotage. We
Yeah.
will go out of our way unconsciously to make accidents happen, to make things happen that just nothing's getting in. So there's not a health issue, it's self
Mhm.
sabotage. And it's like, wow, just hearing you say that and just seeing how many variations there are to how important environment matters for all of us when we stay with shitty people, shitty environments, shitty, health containers, as in houses. So,
Yep.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Because, well, how are you feeling now? I guess is a better question. How are you feeling
Yeah.
now?
I'm feeling so much better. Yeah, there's just like more. I've been able to, I did amazing like energetic coaching with, her name is Karen Page, so shout out to her. She does like human design, energetic coaching. And that, oh my gosh, that was another unlock, I think, in my journey to be able to be like, okay, I'm in this world, right? Because I am,
Mm-hmm.
we are,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have to be of it, right? And so, in the traditional sense of, I'm in the US, like there's a lot of things going on right now, like capitalism, like all these things. I have to have a job, right? But it doesn't have to consume me in the way that I really kind of let it before. And I think from that experience, there's just little things that I do now. So every day before work, I pull a card out of this rest deck card from Rest is Resistance is the book, but she made like this card deck to remind yourself of rest and your humanity. So I pull a card, and then if I go into the office that day, there's like a hand sanitizer station at the end of the day. I put my hand in there. I like rub my hands together. I say whatever is I did here, whatever I said here, it's staying here. I'm not taking it with me. The rest is me. Like those cleansing, right? Because they say that we're tough, this aura, Teflon, but I was talking to another human design person that you actually interviewed, and I reached out to her after that podcast, and I am losing her name, so you're gonna have to put it in the notes right now, because
Describe her, I'll tell you.
but
Or him.
yes, and I met up with her, and I will never forget this analogy she said. She's like, "Yeah, we're like tough like Teflon, but in a pan, you have to spray it first, right? Like or else things stick." And so that spray of letting things slide is that kind of like
Yeah.
protection piece of like pulling a card, doing the, hand sanitizer. I have essential oils or like a little aura spray, like things to just really feel cleansed in a space that I can't control. And I can't control the urgency that people feel in their emails or in, but what I can control is how I react and how I let it off of me, like roll it off. And
Mm.
that's been such a key piece for me in surviving these spaces, but also knowing that it doesn't have to always like affect me. So like one of the things that I really enjoy to do is like my Tuesday like Zumba class. I'm like nothing can get in the way of me doing that Zumba class. Like I have to have this because the movement and the like the late the I really feel good in that environment. The instructor, the
Yeah.
ladies, we like do these
Yeah.
like lines together, and so we're like moving in these directions together, and it's fun and everyone's positive. It's just it's an environment that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
those are the places I invest more in like making sure that those are non-negotiables, because then it makes me feel more me, even
Yes.
if my work day from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever, like didn't make me feel me. I'm like, okay, I need that space to make me feel me in order to show up again for myself every day. Um, so yeah, so I'm feeling a lot better. I I think as a reflector too, as the more I share this story of like medical leave and like the work environment, it's really interesting because people are feeling it, but it's not being talked about. And it's not like, yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, it's this thing, I do it, I just have to push through it. But then the push throughing can lead to like your body keeps the score, is like what you said, right? And I know there's that book, but it doesn't miss me when I think of why are there like higher rates of these diseases and these
Mm.
like cancer, it's like that correlation. Like I really like all of the stress or the things that you're pushing through that people say push through it, right? If there is an alignment, that over time builds up this stuckness. And then what does that stuck energy create? It probably creates bad cells. It probably creates some,
We've got to
diseases
store
and
it somewhere. And
yeah.
if it's not ours, it's others. So
Yes.
it it exacerbates and builds and builds. And until we shift gears, which I love what you were just sharing there before about energetic practice, because it's one of the it's a common big question asked of the reflector community, which I know you're a part of as well. How do you cleanse yourself after a day, or how do you do that? And I think
Hmm.
each of us is so individual. um, but even that practice that you was just saying there about cleansing your hands and just releasing before you leave the office, that's powerful, because that's about intention. And
Hmm.
that's, like setting yourself, to air quote and use the word sovereign. It's coming into your own core to go, I'm not taking this on. you know it is done, it is done, it is done, whatever, whatever your spiritual belief is. But it's real. I think that's the trick. There's no one size fits all, I think, for any person. But there's all these ways that we can take up space in our own beingness to go, ain't mine, ain't my circus, ain't my monkeys, ain't my circus, like fuck it, I'm out.
Yep.
um
Yep.
but can still also care. There was something else that you were sharing there before about that as well, of being in the world but not of the world. And that's a part of your heritage, but also a good place for you to go, I can still be here. So I heard those words as well, of going, it's okay for me to be here.
Yeah.
Because me personally, I know how that feels. I'm an adopted person, so I'm kind of disjointed as well. It's like I don't belong here, but I don't belong here. So, different, same, but different. But I know that feeling of just going, how can I create my own space where it's safe? The big
Mm.
thing, safety. It's safe for me to be here, because all of these other energies and stuff keep telling us it's not. So, yeah. Thank you for highlighting that for me. It's something I would love to talk more about, is that separation of self. And your home, your ancestral country taught me that. So
Yeah.
another gratitude to me for the lands over there in the mountains to sort of like show me things like that, to go, woohoo,
Yeah.
when you're caught between two places, where do we fit? And reflectors, I know, are like that, because we're caught between openness and definition, where do we fit in life?
Right. Yeah. And I love every time something I'm really appreciative of that I grew up going to Peru at a young age, like every other year. And so to feel like there was like it's probably something you've experienced too, but it's like the pieces of me that I don't see here in this land in the US, I see them in Peru. And to meet myself there and see different things and like learn and observe and sam it's like such a beautiful thing that I carry because I'm like one of the simplest things that I'm sure you have experienced when you were there is kind of this concept of like stay as long as you want. There's not really like time, it's like I don't have an appointment. Like here it's okay if you're a minute or two late, oh my gosh, you're like a terrible person because you're wasting that other person's time, right? There, what I learned, it's like my family shows up at the houses unannounced and then they have dinner and then it's like long and it's this like not really a concept of time but more what is centered and valued is the connection and the quality of like connection with people. And I think that's something that I represent when I'm like in this spaces or even at work, right? They're like, okay, Melanie, like I gotta go to my next meeting. And I'm like, wait, like,
Yeah.
I create this like energy of um just like I can be here. Like it's okay. You want to tell me something? Like you want to talk about it? Like I have no I'm not in that like, okay, I'm on the rat race, like, there's something else is going. I really bring that presence um and I think that and I think I can say this, like whatever. Like I think people appreciate it, whether it's said or not, but I can feel that it's it's different. It's going against the course of the environment that I'm in,
Yeah.
but it feels true to me. And so I think being able to carry some of those things from whether it's from my ancestral pieces or the pieces of my culture that I've seen, witnessed through my parents' modeling, is a beautiful way of disrupting too, which is great because I also love to feel that way of this is my disruption of change in order to birth a new type of world that I want to
Mm.
see,
Yeah.
right? And so if I'm here, again, if I'm in the world, I don't have to be of it, but if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna show up with these values and with these pieces of me that want to and are ready to usher in that world that I
Mm.
want to see.
I love that. And at my core, and possibly at yours too, because you were sharing, about your upbringing and then that, I don't want to say burden, but that pressure of your parents to go, right, we've done this. You can do better things. And that feeling of then going, bang, we're here. We got to do all these things. But deep in my core, I've always wanted to just back off, give me space, give me time, give me, and as a young child, we can never express that, right? And
Hmm.
what you're referring to is what I referred to as Peruvian time. And it was frustrating as fuck. Sorry, I swear a lot. But it was like, at first, it was just like, why am I sitting here still 40 minutes later? I am starving. Where's my food? Just, I think it happened a couple of times. It wasn't often. And then it was like, relax. They're creating it with love. It was the places weren't even busy, but it's like you learned very quickly that just because life here in Australia or even in America is just like bang, 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 got to get them in, got to get them out. That's not what they're about. So I always, during that space, it was just like, you're invited into this space, Annie, of knowing that you're deep down at your core, you've always wanted to be slow. And this
Hmm.
culture is showing you that of just going, be present, be mindful. And sometimes it would rise up and go, I'm just really hungry. Um, But I wouldn't say that out loud. That was an internal voice, by the way. But, I appreciate that now more than ever to go, if anything, I've come back stronger. I love what you were sharing to go, I will not be rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And when people feel your stability in that, which you were just sharing there, where people can go, oh, I've got to go. And you just, no, it's okay. It's like you feel them just unravel because we're all just like, fuck, we got to get things done, and it's like, yeah, I can't be in that space. It's like,
Yeah.
you rush ahead. I'm just going to stay here because the more I rush ahead, I don't know about you, 3-6 here, you could share something with me. And I know it's about sampling and experiencing and being a part of the world. But I find when I rush, I make more mistakes. Whereas if I just allow the not the mistakes, you know what I mean, like the experiencing and the sampling to happen in its own time, it's natural because I got a lot of third lines, but I'm not a 3-6. So I'm like, I got a lot of third lines, but I'm not a 3-6. So I don't know how that experience is for you. Um, can I just say that? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
shut up, Annie, for fuck's sake, shut up. Let the three
No,
six
you're
talk about their experience.
no, but yeah, no, I, if I'm being honest, I feel like knowing now, right, in human design, like what 3-6 is, I, I don't think I was allowed to be super three, you know? Like, I think that there were the environment I was in conditioning, it was like, you can't make mistakes. Like this is, so I think I learned quickly how to do my best. And when I did make those mistakes, the anxiety, oh my God, like just crept in and I'm like, oh my God, my parents are gonna hate me. I got like a C on this test, like all those different things that like came up as a child. But when I look back on just like very simple something like even younger, right? Like where the kid, like I'm a literal kid. They're not expecting me to know like algebra at that point. I was through sports, for example. Oh my God, what sport didn't I not try? Like, and just even being able to be like in it was fun for me to enjoy for the sake of doing it, but then being like, huh, that was enough for me. And then, parents, like of any parent, I guess, like it's like, okay, their kid likes basketball. They're gonna be in basketball their whole life, and like they're gonna be like, in college, and like that's their thing. They found their thing at a young age. Or you hear of these Olympians that swam for like their whole life, right? And but for me, it was like, ooh, I want to try basketball, and then I want to try soccer, and then I want to try volleyball, and then I want to try and so I tried so many things until actually like swimming did land for like the most time in my life, which was I think it was like 5 years in total. And I loved it because of its versatility. Like one, I was in my own lane. Nobody could touch me. Like I didn't have to play defense. Like I raced against my own time, really. It was just against myself.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And then the water and being like feeling the movements and knowing that I'm like a Cancer moon and knowing I'm a reflector, like the water part of me just loved being in it. Um, and it's really funny because like I look back and like the reason I stopped was when I was in high school, I had a coach that would continue to put me in these like 500-meter races, which is like 20 laps.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I'm a sprinter. I
Yep.
don't do long, you know? And I think she was like challenging me at the time and like, my teenage angst was probably like, nope, you just like I don't like feeling like I can't do something well, right? And I
Yeah.
think that part of that conditioning too. But it's interesting looking back and speaking about this now because I'm like when you do long distance, it's about pace. It's about knowing like the long term. and like the sprint was like just go. And I feel like in my life right now, if I were to make a similar like symbolism to this, is I am learning what that 500 meters looks like, and that's slower, and knowing when to speed up and when to slow down. And that is keeping me feeling more aligned. But yeah, th 3-6 was the amount of times I changed my major in college was like 4 or 5 times. Um, Again, my parents coming from a different country,
Mm.
there isn't really that same concept of like switching your major. It's I'm gonna be an engineer, so this is my route. I'm gonna be a psychologist. This is the route. Like there isn't very much room for that. And so my parents would be like, what are these like general education courses that you're taking? Like art? Like what is that? You know, like what and it's interesting to like navigate their world and understand what they're seeing, but also like understand the world that I'm seeing and be able to move in that. So as I'm older now, something through my coaching, it's like I can enjoy learning about something without monetizing it and without fully getting a degree in it, because I think I was conditioned to be like, what's your skill? How do you get make a living off of it? Or how do you get a certification or some like, you know, some validity that you know that you're an expert in this. Versus now, it's like, okay, I can take like a poetry class or an art class just for the sake of wanting to know about that,
Yeah.
like the joy of it.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really good and challenging, though, if I'm being honest, because my first instinct, like, for example, with making my room back here and decorating it, I was like, oh my God, I should be an interior designer. Look at this. Like, I'm just gonna, like, I'm gonna change my life and be like, start my own business and be an interior designer. And then just like through the cycles, the moon cycles, right? I was like, I can just enjoy decorating my space. Like
Yeah.
I like little Melanie, like you can just enjoy it. You don't have to have it be your identity, monetize it, or be the best. Like you just can enjoy it. And that has been relieving and also freeing, like very freeing to feel that more.
Yeah. Me too. That is a huge part of just what you shared then. And I had to quickly write down that swimming analogy because I'm like, fuck yeah, that's huge. But that that space of us knowing when we can just sample, get a taste of something and leave, opposed to signing up for the 12-month course, right? Because
Yep.
quite often we've like 2 weeks in and we're like, yeah, good, thanks. Or 1 month in, it's just like, and the more we have these experiences of knowing that, the more we can kind of go, Annie, you're not gonna hang out for 12 months. There's no effing way that you're gonna do that. But I really love that what you shared about swimming. I love swimming too. So for me, I could really identify with that of going, I'm a pacer. So um I'm also a bit older. Maybe in my younger years I was a sprinter or would have been a sprinter, but it's just like, again, it's echoing what you were saying for me to go, just let me take my own time. Don't rush
Mhm.
me. So it's an echo of that, of going, at certain points in our life, do we start to switch gears? Because we can, what you shared, I've always been a sprinter, but maybe now I can appreciate doing a little bit of longer distance and setting pace. And, you know, yeah, swimming. That's the best analogy for a reflector. I'm in my own lane, no one can touch me, and I'm racing just against my own time. It's like, yes, put that on a tote bag, Melany.
Yes. That's exactly why I chose swimming. I was like, I don't want to do any of these contact sports.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big that one's a big thing for me. I'm like, I remember that. Thank you for that gift.
Yeah, of course.
So where are you at now, and where's life leading you that you can share with the beautiful reflector community that we have?
Yeah. I think so recently, speaking of like courses and all that stuff, I have completed a coaching certificate. So and that has been really cool experience to, like you said, like when you're in like the first week, first year, you're like you can already kind of feel that. That's exactly actually how I felt when I took my first course in um, I went into undergrad with a communication disorders major, wanting to be a speech therapist. I took my first science, like it was like comm disorders class. First class, I was like, nope, like not for me. So it's funny that you said that. It made me think of back then. So with this course, it was really cool because uh, it almost felt like it was taking it was putting to words what I was already doing. So in my life, I've always been really a coach. I've always been sought out for advice or wisdom, even, and that's where I think where that six comes from. I know it's like double three before 30, but there was always this sense of like wisdom in that space. And even as I look back, so something that a tradition I do for every year in my birthday, which was in May, my parents have this box. They just labeled it Melany. And they just threw in like everything in my childhood, like whether it was like books I created, like things that were graded, my cards I got, certificates, things like that. And so every year I reach in that box and say, okay, what does like little Melanie have for me this year? You know? And so this year I pulled out or what I gravitated towards the most was my conflict manager certificate that I had in the fourth grade. So I was a conflict manager and I was trained in grade school to literally have a clipboard and go around the playground, and any issue that happened I would like mediate and make sure that. And so a lot of coaching, so it kind of brought this connection of that like through line of like, hey, like you've always done this, like it's always been, this has always been you. And it's exciting because I just finished that course and I have a little bit more hours to do before I take the like official exam for the International Coaching Federation, and learning human design and astrology and thinking through like, ooh, like how can I like mesh these things in some spaces? Like how can I, just dreaming right now of what can be.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm just really excited to feel this alignment between, because I do enjoy learning. But through our systems, it hasn't always been that good feeling of alignment. But lately, this last 2, 3 years, it's like, hey, like astrology and human design isn't boring for me. Like I actually like I'm thirsty for more
Yeah.
and more. And it's like I'm sure my husband, my partner is like probably so sick of me talking about it, but it's after knowing his chart and like I'm like, "Hey, now that I know you're a generator, I'm going to ask you questions like of how to, in our communication, and like is this like a better way to make decisions for you, or, things like that." And so being able to sample and test and experiment has been really fun. So I'm excited to see. I'm in the incubation phase of like dreaming and thinking about what's next, but I'm really thankful for, because even in my current role as a project manager, it's really cool to understand the alignment in that too, right? Where it's like I am the holder of the project and I work across 14 different departments
Mhm.
that see me at the center of holding it all together, which I'm like, wow, that's very reflector to like even that piece. And I don't have to know the nitty-gritty of what the legal side does or what the engineers do or what revenue does, right? Like, or these little pieces. I don't have to know the nitty-gritty, but I have to ask the right questions in order to make sure that this whole thing works together. Or I have to connect the dots and be the glue and so it's fun because I'm like, wow, this is actually leaning into my natural strengths too. And even through these conversations, it is a little bit of coaching of like, hey, I'm trying to get to this direction here. How can we work together and build that team collaboration through this? So it's been really cool to see those strengths and being able to play into those strengths at work, despite maybe, and I think this is like overall career advice that I see sometimes. It's like playing into your strengths versus maybe what the job description says, right? Like it's like if you know you're a people person, then how do you play into that in your role and adjust, right? Versus maybe you're a very technical person or like you like see things very meticulously. Okay, lean into that piece.
Yeah.
And it's been really, I'm in the fun ride of dreaming, exploring, excited for what may be next. I also was part of an anthology, a Latinas 100 anthology with one of my stories of when I went to Peru. So I've been, again, a little bit of sampling. It's like,
Yep.
because I like to write. And so it's been really cool to see the opportunities come where it's not, and this is a first for me because I'm been conditioned to be like, I'm all in, right? I'm getting the degree, I'm getting the job, I'm getting, but it's been nice to have these opportunities come and be like, hey, you don't have to write a whole book and put your book out there. Like, you could actually just write a story, like in an anthology. How does that
Yeah.
feel? You know, like, how does that feel for you? Was that fun? Was that good? And then, okay, you can do this coaching program, but that, like, you still have a job to pay your bills, right? You're not like launching a business right away. Um, and so it's like been nice to be able to like live in this sampling cadence versus I feel like the thing I was conditioned to be and reacted to, I think as probably a 3-6, to go all in. I'm doing everything and then realizing once you're in, oh man, I don't like it.
Well, it's also externalizing. It's just that here's a bit of reflection from my healing as well as a adopted person, but also a bigger, broader thing, which I feel a lot in people. We eject. We eject. We're scanning everybody else. And so every time something comes into our orbit, we like go, that's mine. That's got to be mine. That's mine because we're deeply needing that feeling of presence. And
Yep.
the more we do this, we never it doesn't get there. When they say that thing of going, it's always inward work. It is, and it's like why can't I just get it from this? It's just like, nah, it doesn't work that way. And when you see it, you can't unsee it of just what we do. We just and seeking that, especially with those open centers, I suppose, to use human design, it's
Yep.
only natural that that's the way that we're going to play out. Whereas it's like we have to find that anchoring here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you were sharing there before, and I shared on social media a little story about the condor coming back, which I know you'd maybe appreciate as being that observer. And they're not in a rush up there. And they're like what you were just sharing about having all those multiple projects. I could see it. It's just like, I don't know, it's a beautiful analogy. It's a really good way to experience life, to go pull back, just wait and glide and feel
Mhm.
into the flows and the rifts and the temperature and the smell, and even what you do with your essential oils, which I do as well. It's just like experiencing these moments that bring us back to who we are,
Yeah.
because it's very easy to be our parents and it's very easy to want, be the world.
Yep.
Sorry, there's my TED talk for the day. But
No, I love it. It's true. It's really easy. Like I can feel myself like being pulled in.
yeah.
And then and I also recognize when I'm off center where, days that I forget to pull my card or, oh, I didn't put like in the office, I didn't have the hand sanitizer. And Um, and I do feel off. Like I
Mm.
feel completely off. And I'm like, oh, like I don't want to feel this way. So I gotta make sure like these things are regular because I feel more of myself when I do those things or the non-negotiables of the Zumba class, the dancing class, the even like the
Yeah.
food I eat,
The
Yeah, like
creativity. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. The self-expression, right? That's
Yep.
like one of the
Yep.
gates. So yeah. If I don't express myself, then I know something's going on.
You're going to eat yourself from the inside. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you so much for sharing space with me. I'm sure we could talk for hours, but it's just always so much to chat about and explore. But I would just want to thank you for sharing your time with me today and sharing your story and your lived experience.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been really fun to see a space like this for reflectors because whether it's on social media or the internet, right? We're always like when they introduce the auras, we're always the last. And
Yeah.
so I feel like there's not as many real life conversations or, like yeah, just real life conversations out there that are having reflectors be the center. And that's been a really fun space for me to gather these like little bits of, oh my gosh, it's so good to hear somebody's like journey of being a reflector and living here and having a job and having, all these normal things that we all as humans have in life, but how that gets lived differently for a reflector. And that's been such a beautiful gift. So thank you for creating that.
You're welcome. And I'll put you in touch with your reflector sister
Yeah.
who's born one
Basically.
minute. You're born one
Yeah.
minute before she is. Yeah, you're the eldest.
Yeah. Yeah. By a minute.
By
Yeah.
1 minute. How good's that? Um, Gosh, such a trip to have
Yeah.
that experience of just going, okay, we need some Sphinx 3-6 energy in this space, and you both showed up
At the
1 minute
at the same.
apart. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, then I'm impacted.
Yes. Yeah.
We got something to share with the world, and the world needs to hear it. So
Mm.
thank you, beautiful human. You are a gift to the world. Appreciate you, appreciate all that you've lived through and all that you will and all that you'll do. So let's keep in touch.
Yes, please. Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome.